Okay, so hands up, who has ever had a speeding ticket? Hands up, who has ever had points on their license from speeding? Also guilty. Hands up, who's had their driving license taken away because of speeding? No, okay, I'm not that bad. I don't speed anyway. I sometimes go over the limit when it's a really low limit. So the point of this video is we all speed sometimes. I'm sure everyone puts their hand up at some point if you've been driving for any amount of time. We've all gone over the limit without realising it, or we have realised it and, got a speeding ticket anyway. So next week, or what's today? Today's Saturday, right? So next week in Europe is something called Speed Week, where the police are going to be checking all the speed traps all around Europe. It's a big, wide European thing to try and reduce accidents and fatalities on the roads. And Germany is, ironically, really going for it. They call it the Blitzermarathon, which is, Blitzer is like a lightning, which is when the flash goes off. So like a speed trap marathon they're going to be doing in Bavaria. It's 24 hours long on Wednesday from midnight to midnight or something, doesn't really matter. But it's 24 hours long. And they're going to be checking all junctions, all traffic lights, just any place they feel like people might speed, and people are going to be getting fines left, right and centre. And it's possible that if you get caught several times, you could lose your driving licence within a few hours because you don't even realise that you've been speeding or been caught if they don't pull you over. I think in this instance, a lot of them are actually pulling people over because they're just going to be out in force. So I guess, other crimes will take back seat to people speeding. Now, like I said, I don't speed. I sometimes do. I don't deliberately speed. There were times when I did drive quite fast. When I first moved to Germany, I'd only had my licence about a year, and we had all these amazing press cars. We had from tiny little Kia Sorentos, which were terrible, to Porsche Cayennes, to Lamborghinis, Audi Q3s, Q5s. Q3 wasn't out at that point. So we've had across the board incredible cars. And I used to have this stretch of motorway between the office and my home that had no speed limit. And I would basically race myself, try and see which car was the fastest to get home, especially when I worked late till 7, 8 at night, and it was completely clear. So I never drove when there was lots of traffic. I would never speed and go, 200 kilometers an hour. But if you've got a brand new BMW with a nice engine, possibly even a V8, and it's fantastically new and wonderful and luxurious, and you have this open stretch of road, I understand that you want to go fast and you want to test it, and it's just the best thing. But I have changed my mind a lot, especially since having kids, because I've seen accidents and I've seen what can happen, and it's not nice. So I have an issue with this whole Blitzermarathon because they're clamping down on people for a whole week, and especially for 24 hours. One day out of 365 days, they are really clamping down on people. What about the other 364 days? I mean, people can just speed. I know there are no speed limits on a lot of the motorway, but the majority of them do actually have a speed limit, and it has to be enforced. And they might sometimes have cameras enforcing it, but not like in the UK. You could just go through any space and just go over the limit and nobody will care. Nobody will pick you up on it. Just like going through red lights. Near my little boy's school, there's it's close to a big road that's a dual carriageway, but it's in the city already. And the traffic comes from outside of Munich to commute in every morning. So we're there about 7:30 every morning when we walk to school. The amount of cars that go through on red lights as the kids are about to cross the road at the pedestrian crossing is insane. And there's always someone with him, but you have a bunch of up to 20 kids in one session crossing the road as it turns green. Green, they go, cars go and slam their brakes on, or they just shoot through just before it turns green, but it was red for them. And it's just inexcusable. It's inexcusable behaviour, and it makes me so cross. It makes me so cross because it's so dangerous, and the police are never there. The police do not care about people driving through red lights apart from this 1 week and apart from these 24 hours. So what can we do? We just can't do anything. I try and do the German thing and wag my finger, but I also don't like to do that because it's not up to me to enforce it. I just wish the governments would enforce it more, and I wish they'd bring the speed limit, but every time they have a vote on it, it's the whole we should be allowed to drive as fast as we want thing. The problem is they don't just do it on the motorways on a clear day. They do it in the cities. They do it in residential areas. Our road has a 30-kilometre limit. People go down at 60. I mean, you see them speeding past. Kids are crossing the roads. Kids are scooting across the roads. It's so dangerous. About 2 months ago, when I left my office, I witnessed the aftermath of a massive crash, which was a fatal crash, sadly. It must have happened minutes beforehand. There was a 4-year-old child who was hit as his mum turned left, and a guy ran a red light and went smashing into them and hit the side where the kid was. In the back, he was in a child seat, perfectly strapped in. It was a Skoda, it was a good car, and he had no chance because it was a head-on for the child, like sideways collision. And he died at the scene, and it was so sad because it was so unnecessary. This man just wanted to jump the red light. He saw it turning from green to red, sped up towards the red light, towards an amber light actually, and it was red by the time he went through, by which point it was green for the woman to turn left, and they just collided. And this happens at least once a week in Germany. Munich, I mean. Germany, I'm sure more than that. But it happens all the time, and I see it. I don't read the news, and I see news reports at least once a week of these kind of things happening. That and racing. People love to race late at night, up streets, dual carriageways, Leopoldstrasse in the centre, or on parts of the city or even the motorway. And again, they're constant fatalities where they go smashing into someone, and it's so unnecessary, and it's just, why the rush? I know racing is different, but you see the people that don't jump the red lights, they're all in such a rush, and this is such a national thing. I think it's a human condition in the modern world that we just want to get somewhere really quickly. But why? Just slow down. It might save you 1 or 2 minutes. Honestly, you might get there. You might skip the next red light and get there 2 minutes, 3 minutes earlier than you would have done. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's not a matter of life and death, if you're not an ambulance driver or fire engine or a policeman, it's unlikely that you need to go through that red light. You know, just slow down. And in the last few years, especially since becoming a mum, and I've tried to slow down more, I see this more than anything. I will poodle on the motorway at 60, 70 kilometres an hour, like really slow. I've had trucks come up behind me and flash me to get out the way and to speed up, which is a bit mad because you can overtake me. You know, there are lanes to overtake. And it's, you know, I'm not one of those old women that goes really slow, but I take my time and there's no need, and it doesn't make much of a difference. I honestly don't notice that I have more time on my hands since driving slower. In fact, I arrive more relaxed. I arrived less stressed if I ignore the people around me, put my blinkers on that don't exist, and just try and enjoy it. And I just wish people would hear. It's such a, I'm trying not to sound mean, it's a very stressed country. I think they drink too much coffee. Yeah, I'm not really a coffee drinker. I drink tea more than anything. And I just think there's too much caffeine and too much cortisone in this country, and people cannot handle any stress, and they shout and they scream and they, if you're driving too slow. And I just smile and I don't let it get to me anymore. If I have someone come up behind me flashing the lights because I'm going too slow, if I'm going 70 in an 80 limit or something, I don't care, because I'm not going 10 kilometers an hour. I'm not going really slow, but I'm not going to speed up just to satisfy this person. We've had people try to intimidate us before. I don't know why. My husband was driving and he came up behind us and he was flashing a guy in a big black BMW, and I don't know what it was, and then he basically drove next to us and he was kind of looking in and just trying to intimidate us, and I'm like, he's with his wife and 2 little kids in the back, and the back windows are tinted so he probably couldn't see, but that's irrelevant. You just don't do that. Just be a nice human being. Just be kind, try and be gentle, and please slow down. If everyone just slowed down a little bit, took a breather, then they wouldn't even need this Blitzermarathon and Speed Week. So that's me signing off, trying to be slower, trying to be gentler, and drive carefully, and see you next time. Cheerio.